All right, welcome back to the Mike and Andrew Show. I'm Andrew Surik here again with Mike Meredith on a beautiful Thursday evening. Mike, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. It's gonna be a good episode number 5 here. Can't believe we are. It seems like we're flying through these episodes, man. So yeah,
Yeah, man, a lot of episodes. We got a lot to get to today, so we're gonna get right into it. So Tuesday we previewed tonight's game between the Giants and 49ers. Uh, we're both pretty sure the Niners are gonna
well,
get Niners to win. I mean, they're favored by 10.5. I mean, come on now.
yeah.
So let's just get right into it for the Sunday slate of games. Um, so first up, we have Detroit and Atlanta. Detroit's favored by only 3. The line opened up at 5.5 for Detroit. Now it's down only to 3. Um, I think the Lions are going to win this one. That said, I think I and many people have woefully underestimated the Falcons so far. I mean, Bijan Robinson, man, is just
hmm
incredible. Um, Obviously, Desmond Shitter still, sucks. But yeah, dude, I mean, I'm gonna take the Lions and the points in this one, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the Lions find a way to lose this because the Falcons are a lot better of a team than I thought they were.
Yeah, man, I agree. I think the Falcons have a good chance of actually winning their division. Their division is just so bad. But I do think the Lions will win and cover the points. I mean, they have to win this game. This is such a crucial turning point. If I already know someone who said that if the Lions lose this game, he's done watching the Lions for the year. You know, like every Lions fan goes through that phase. They cannot have their fans go through another phase of it's the same old Lions again. They got to win this game. They can't go 1-2, man. I think the key to that is going to be stopping Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier from, of course, the run game is Atlanta's strong suit. Desmond Shitter, man, he's fucking garbage. We don't really have to worry about him. Just stopping the run game and playing sound football and playing good if the game's close.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of fans say that they're done watching the Lions, but they never really are. I mean,
They
let's
never
let's
are.
be let's be real here. I've always said, at times watching the Lions, just like, yep, they lose this game, I'm done. They lose it, and yet I'm watching again the next week. I mean, it that's just how it is. But yeah, dude, I mean, the Lions should be focusing on that run game because Desmond Ritter is not going to be able to do anything. He's proven that he can't do anything with the ball, and they also have just no receiving weapons either. So, I
The
mean,
downfall of Kyle Pitts,
yeah,
man.
exactly. I mean, that's really all they have out to catch balls is Kyle Pitts. But yeah, I think this is a game where the Lions have to win. Dan Campbell has to prove that he's somewhat competent and can make up for what happened last week. Um, so yeah, other games here got the Colts and the Ravens. Baltimore favored by 8 in this one. Um, I mean, yeah, I'm going with the Ravens on this. Obviously, the Colts are just ass, and I know Anthony Richardson is injured as well. So um, I think this just helps the Ravens a lot more. Although Gardner Minshew looked pretty solid last week after Richardson went down, and he's going to get the start this week. I still think Lamar's ass, but yeah, I think everything's in the Ravens' favor on this one, and obviously Vegas completely agrees.
Yeah, I think the Ravens have this. I'm not sure if I think they're going to win by more than 8.5. I mean, they probably should. They got the better team, but I feel like the Colts may keep this somewhat close, even though they're dealing with injuries. Gardner Minshew is at least competent. He can at least carry you through the game to keep you close. But the Ravens should win this. I mean, um, I don't see the Colts win. So yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a flat 8, so for anyone that's into gambling, if you're ballsy and you want to bet that under, go right ahead, man, because there's going to be tons of value in that. I do think the Colts will cover that, so I think Vegas is trying to tell you to take the over by making it a flat 8. But if you're ballsy, you, you'll take that under on that spread and probably end up winning too. So the Titans and Browns will play. Cleveland only favored by 3.5. Um, Obviously, lots to talk about with Cleveland. All the injuries, and
Yeah, man.
Tennessee's just garbage as well. I'm taking Cleveland. I don't think they cover though. I think this will be a lot closer of a game. It'll be a low scoring game too. But yeah, I'm gonna take Cleveland in this one. Um, both teams aren't looking good, but I think the Browns can dig themselves out of a hole still that they're in right now.
Yeah. So I think Cleveland as well is going to win this. I think it's going to be close though. I mean, Tennessee, they got that big win against the Chargers last week. Such a devastating injury to Nick Chubb. Now they got Jerome Ford, Kareem Punt, taking snaps now. So we'll see how the run game is this week. But I think Cleveland will win this as well. But I agree, it's going to be a close game.
Yeah, absolutely. The Nick Chubb thing. I mean, man, that was such a brutal hit. But
Mm-hmm.
and we talked about that in the last episode. But yeah, I think Kareem Hunt was a good pickup, especially for the Browns because he knows the system. He knows that offense very well already. So I think that was just a no-brainer move for them. The Broncos taking on the Dolphins. Miami's favored by 6.5 in that one. I mean, the Dolphins are looking really, really good. I think they probably are the favorite to win their division right now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, Russell Wilson's just he ain't the same man. He's not the same. I'm taking the Dolphins and the points in this one. I mean, yeah, unless Sean Payton and Russell Wilson can figure it out together, I don't see the Broncos doing well at all in this one.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins take care of business here, man. They are red hot right now. With that big win and big stats from Tua and Tyreek in the first week. Didn't play as well in week 2, but they still pulled out a win against a division opponent in the Patriots. I think that they'll take care of business here.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of the Patriots, they play the Jets, favored by 2.5. Um, here's my thing: is if you're favored by only 2.5 against Zach Wilson,
Zach Wilson.
I'm gonna take Zach Wilson in this game. I'm taking the Jets to win it. Um, Belichick, send him to the moon, man. He just he's he's not the coach that everyone thought he was. And if things don't improve this year, I think he should be forced into retirement, man. Because I mean, nothing's going well in New England, and yeah, I mean, I'm taking the Jets, and I think they cover as well. Um, yeah, nothing's gonna go well for the Jets, but they have that elite level defense, probably the best defense in the league, at least top 3 defense. Um, but again, they have Zach Wilson at quarterback, so I can understand people's
Yeah.
hesitancy on that. But the Patriots just can't do anything on either side of the ball. So yeah, I'm taking the Jets in this one.
Yeah, this is going to be a close game, man. I saw that the Patriots, this is like the first time they were 0-2 since like 2000 or 2001. It's been a long time. I feel like they definitely need a big win here. Zach Wilson, he is just so trash, man. I heard someone today talking on one of those sports talk shows saying that Zach Wilson looks like if you plopped a high school quarterback into an NFL game, that's who he reminds him of. Just like a random high school quarterback who, has no feel for the game at the professional level. Man, Zach Wilson is just trash. I'm actually going to go with the Patriots here. The Jets are the better team, but I think the Patriots, they cannot go 0-3, man. They gotta get something together here. I think Belichick will try and get some, elaborate scheme going. Hopefully their offense and defense can pick it up. I
I
think though it'll be close. I wouldn't be shocked if the Jets win this game though.
I mean, who's worse, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, or Desmond Ritter?
They're all horrible. They're
I mean,
all
who's
so
worse though?
bad
I mean, look, I think the Jets win this one. That defense is good, and New England can't move the ball. So, uh, and against a really good defense, moving the ball is going to be even harder when you can't even move the ball well against not some middle of the road defenses. Um, from one New York team to another, Buffalo's taking on Washington. They're favored by 6 in this one. Uh, Josh Allen looked really good last week, despite Week 1 looking just miserable, looking like Zach Wilson. Making some Zach Wilson throws, but I'm gonna take Buffalo in this one. Washington, despite the 2-0 start and looking fairly good, last weekend they had to they had to you know almost take it to overtime with the Broncos, and the Broncos aren't good. The Hail Mary towards the end of the game was just I don't understand how Washington was even in that position because the Broncos are just so bad. But here we are with that. I'm going to take Buffalo, and I think they also cover the 6. It is a flat 6 too, so um, again, Vegas is trying to tell you to take the over, take the under if you're a better.
Yeah, man. I think Buffalo, man, as well is going to take this. Washington played Arizona their first week, and then Denver. They haven't had tough opponents for them being 2-0. Buffalo, even though we were really hard on them after week 1, they proved everyone wrong. They came out, probably played the best of anyone. In week 2, man, that 38-10 statement win. I think that they'll be fine here and cover that spread here and win.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, they came back. They made a big statement, and I agree with you. I think they did play the best out of every team in week 2. Saints and the Packers will play as well in the 1 o'clock time slot. Green Bay's favored by 1.5 here. I think the Saints are a fraudulent 2-0. I mean, 2 games very very
Another one.
close. Again, in a very bad division, they're a fraudulent 2-0. There's 3 teams in that division that are 2-0 right now. Um, with the Saints, the Bucks, and the Falcons, and I think all 3 of those teams are really fraudulently 2-0. I think the Packers win this one. My heart wants the Saints to win this because I'm a Lions fan. I want the Packers to do bad, but Jordan Love has been pretty solid so far this year. I think Green Bay wins this, and I think it's going to be a little bit further spread out than just 1.5 points there.
Yeah, I think Green Bay wins this pretty easily. I'm shocked the line was that low. I thought for sure Green Bay would be getting like 3.5 to 4.5 on the Saints here. Green Bay just looks better. Like you said, I want Green Bay to lose, but I just don't see the Saints doing it, man. They played Carolina and Tennessee in their first 2 games. Just not good opponents. I think that Green Bay will take care of business in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. The Texans and the Jags play. The Jags. And so Jacksonville's favored by 8.5. Trevor Lawrence gonna do Trevor Lawrence things in this one. I think there's nothing on that Texans defense to help them, and Trevor Lawrence looks like he's gonna be an elite level quarterback one day. I mean he's still got to build himself up. I think he's had kind of a slow start to his career considering what he was able to do in college. But that said, I still think C.J. Stroud is probably the best rookie quarterback in this class because I mean he's just able to read the field, read the offense really well, and he's able to get that Texans offense going a bit. But they're 0-2, they're a depleted organization. But I think the Jags will win this handedly, and I think Vegas obviously agrees with the 8.5 favorites on Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think Jacksonville takes care of business here. They had the Chiefs last week. That was a tough matchup for them, and of course didn't do well at all. I don't think they scored a touchdown in that game. Houston's just so bad. Even though C.J. Stroud and the receiver Nico Collins are leading or top 5 in their categories for yards, they're just not that good, man. Texans are probably the second or third worst team in the league right now. I think that Jacksonville will handle this, and I think it's going to be a pretty big blowout game.
Absolutely. The Chargers and the Vikings will play. Minnesota's only favored by 1 in this one. I want to take the Chargers. I really do.
Don't,
I just,
don't,
I
don't.
can't. Here's what I don't understand about the Chargers is Brandon Staley's this allegedly, defensive-minded genius, right? And they have a lot of talent on that Chargers defense, but over the last 2-3 years, what are they doing? They find all these ways to lose games. I'm giving up 28 points in a half. Was it last season? I think, or in the playoffs? Something in the past.
In the playoffs.
Yeah, you can't do that, especially if you're a defensive-minded coach and you have all these weapons and great players on your defense. So I really want to take the Chargers. I don't think it's going to happen. So I think Minnesota will win this one. I think obviously they cover because it is a flat 1, and that's why I almost want to take the Chargers, because usually when you look at the NFL and you see a spread that's 1.5 or a flat 1 favorite, you want to pick the dog in that one because 9 times out of 10 the dog actually wins. But I can't trust Brandon Staley. I can't trust that defense on the Chargers to do anything and preserve a lead that they'll potentially have.
Yeah, so we'll see how this pans out come next week. But my prediction is the Chargers are going to go up by maybe 10, 14. Similar, I guess, to what the Eagles did last week on the Vikings. Went up. The Vikings are going to come back, and they're going to win at the end. The Vikings win the close score games. They were 11-0 last year in close games. The Chargers are infamous for blowing all those games. I think that's what's going to happen again. I want to take the Chargers, of course, but they just find a way to lose every time. I think the Vikings being 0-2 as well. One of them's got to show out here. Vikings tough loss to Tampa at the start, and then of course drawing the Eagles in week 2 was tough. So I think the Vikings of the two that needs the win is gonna get it.
Yeah, the thing about the 11-0 last year, I think this is kind of karma for the Vikings because now they're 0-2 in one-score games. Yeah. So I think it's karma for last season. And look, I thought Minnesota last year were frauds because it is very, very hard in this league to go 11-0 in one-score games. It is very hard. They're one of the few teams to have ever done it. And so yeah, I think this is just kind of coming back to bite them this year. It's a little bit of karma, if you will. But yeah, I think the Vikings will win this. I think the Chargers will just find a way to lose this game, which they always do. And then into the afternoon games, there's only 3 of them this week. Panthers and the Seahawks. Seattle obviously favored by 6.5. I think this is a no-brainer. They didn't look good in week 1 against a not-so-good Rams team. And then obviously beating the Lions in overtime. I mean, we had our thoughts on that on Tuesday. We're not going to get into it. The Lions should have won that game. But, Dan Campbell's an idiot. But, yeah, I think Seattle wins this. Bryce Young, he has a lot of talent, but I think the biggest downfall for him in this league is that he can't see over his, lineman in front of him because he's so tiny. I saw a joke like earlier today saying that like if it's like second and goal on like the opponent half-yard line, that they're just gonna instead of doing a normal QB sneak, one of the running backs is gonna run up behind him and then throw him over the line because he's just that tiny. But yeah, but I think Seattle wins this one. I think they also cover. The Panthers just don't look good, and Bryce Young hasn't really looked that good either, despite all the talent that he does possess.
Yeah, so I think Seattle's got this as well. I know you've been mentioning Bryce Young, but the news is saying that he's not even going to be playing in this game. He actually has an injury. I think it was an ankle injury, and
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
possibly. I think he's ruled out for the game against Seattle. So I don't even know who's going to be the backup. Matt Corral was the last I think I heard.
Oh no, I just saw actually. I think it's Andy Dalton's gonna be
Andy
starting.
Dalton. Okay.
Yeah, I believe that's what I saw was Andy Dalton is starting. So I'd have to double check that. Let me look that up real quick. Um,
But yeah, I think Seattle is just got this. I mean, they lost to the Rams, and of course that heartbreaking loss, or heartbreaking win, I should say. I guess they had over the Lions.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Andy
and
Dalton is starting, by the way.
so
Yeah, it
yeah,
is Andy Dalton. Yep.
so yeah, I still think even with him starting in place of Bryce Young, they aren't going to do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Cowboys and the Cardinals will play at 4:30. Dallas favored by 12 and a half. Um, I mean, I'm taking the Cowboys. I think they've been the best team so far this season. Just they've only allowed 10 points in two games. I know that's not a huge sample size, but that defense looks legit. Also, you still can't convince me that Arizona didn't go into the locker room at halftime and be like, "Why are we even winning this game against the Giants this past week?" Still can't convince me otherwise because there's no way they blow that. There's no way they're that bad. But yeah, I'm taking the Cowboys and the points on this one.
Yeah, I think so too. You mentioned that Cowboys defense, man. Trayvon Diggs today carrying his ACL at practice. Big loss for them, especially.
Ah, yeah.
Trayvon Diggs has been too crazy in coverage, but he's good at getting interceptions and stuff, and he can contribute. But against the Cardinals, they've been blowing teams out. Michael Parsons is probably going to get 4 sacks in that game. So I think that Dallas handles this one easily.
Yeah, no kidding. And look, Dallas has had a cupcake schedule for the first 3 weeks. You go to the Giants, Jets, and now the Cardinals. I mean, you can't. I know the Jets have a really good defense, but you're playing against Zach Wilson, so it's kind of like you're obviously going to win that game. It doesn't matter how good your defense is. Um, from the Jets' perspective, that is. Um, so yeah, another 12.5 favorite here. Chiefs taking on the Bears. Justin Fields is just a. I mean, he's a horrible quarterback. He can't do anything right. That said, yeah, the Chiefs I'm taking in this one. Although the offense hasn't really been rolling for the Chiefs to start the year. I mean, only being held to 20 points in the opener against the Lions, and then only being held to 17 last week by Jacksonville. And now, granted, Jacksonville's got a pretty decent defense, but still, that offense has not been able to get rolling. They'll probably get rolling here against the Bears because that defense is just awful. And yeah, so I'm taking Mahomes and the Chiefs in this one.
Yes, I think the Chiefs will be better this week. I'm not sure how the offense is going to do with the whole Travis Kelsey rumor now with him and Taylor Swift. I don't know how that's going to be impacting anything. But we'll see how he does. He came back. Chris Jones came back last week as well, so we'll see how the Chiefs do. But they gotta put up more points, man. They were consistently putting up over 25 every time since Mahomes has been with the Chiefs, man. I think that they're gonna bounce back here and have a nice high scoring game.
Absolutely. And then Sunday night, you got the Steelers and the Raiders. Raiders are favored by 2.5 in this one. I don't trust Jimmy G, so I'm taking the Steelers in this one. I know, like, the Steelers are probably like they always are. They're going to be a 9-8 team. They're just a middle of the road team. I just don't trust Jimmy G whatsoever. So I'm taking the Steelers in this one.
I'm actually going to be taking the Steelers as well. I just think that they have a little bit more. I would trust them more, I would say, in a game that's kind of close like this. The Raiders, man, just Jimmy G, like you said, don't really trust him in this environment. Even though Kenny Pickett, I'm not really sold on him either. Um, I think Tomlin will do enough to at least get some game playing going. Um, the defense will probably uh, have a solid game for them. So I'll take the Steelers here in as the underdogs.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this matchup, and this is the type of game that Mike Tomlin thrives in. So I think, yeah, and Mike Tomlin's a hell of a coach. So yeah, I'm taking the Steelers in this. And then Monday night, you got two games. We got the Eagles and the Bucks. I think the Bucks, just like the Saints, a fraudulent 2-0 to start the year. Philly's only favored by 5 in this one. I'm going to take Philly. I think they more than cover in this. I don't think it'll be as close as Vegas thinks it will be. Like I said, I think the Bucks are a fraudulent 2-0. They should probably be 1-1 right now. Um, I just don't understand how they beat the Vikings, but it's the Vikings, so I don't care. I'm glad that the Vikings lost that game. It's just I think Jalen Hurts is a really, really good quarterback, especially at the NFL level. A lot of people didn't think he would be, but I think he's proven to be that he can be a trusted dude. And DeAndre Swift, obviously, last week was a really, really big game. Their running attack in Philly is really good as well, and on top of a pretty solid defense also.
Yeah, I think the Eagles take this as well. Tampa Bay has been 2-0, but again, I don't think really anyone was expecting them to be 2-0 at this point. They are another fraudulent team in that horrible division. Eagles, possibly the best team in football right now, do need to play a little bit better than they have been. Some close games their first couple weeks, but I think they'll handle this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I think yeah they need to play better, and that's why I think it is only down to 5. I think if the Eagles were actually playing as well as they should be, that yeah they would be favored by a lot more. And then the last game on Monday night, the Rams and the Bengals. In this, Cincy's favored by 3. They're 0-2. My hesitation is Joe Burrow's injury. I think um, they undersold his injury in training camp, and now it's looking like things could be a lot worse for him. So I'm gonna take the Rams in this one. I don't know. I don't even know if Joe Burrow's starting yet. And the Rams' offense has looked pretty good so far this year. Aaron Donald's doing Aaron Donald things, so and that's really all that's said to be on the Rams' defense. But yeah, I'm taking the Rams in this one. Uh,
Yeah,
there's just so many question marks around the Bengals.
there is, man. I really don't want to see the Bengals go down to 0-3. That's going to be really tough to pull out from. Um, you know, but the Rams have looked solid. Puka Nakua, man, I mean, he's on pace to like more than break the receptions record. I don't think he's going to. I think his workload will slow down here as Cooper Kupp starts coming back into the
Yeah, exactly.
season here. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like you said, Joe Burrow, the injuries have been tough with him. Since he's got so much talent, man. But yeah, with him being such a question mark and the Rams putting up points, they played the 49ers somewhat tough. They kept it within a touchdown and then beat Seattle pretty handily, who, gave the Lions a good fight. So I think the Rams will win, but I'm hoping Cincy wins, this Super Bowl, what was it, 2021 matchup? Rematch.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is like the Bengals, they came back from 0-2, and I believe that year is when they went to the Super Bowls when they started the year 0-2, and then worked their way back and into the playoffs. It's hard to do, But I think if they go down 0-3 here, it's just going to be very, very tough for them to try and claw their way out of that hole. But yeah, I'm taking the Rams here, and yeah.
Yeah, so looks like that's going to do it for the NFL Week 3 preview. But let's get into the Cam Akers trade. This kind of came out of nowhere in the middle of the week this week. Cam Akers being traded from the Rams to the Vikings here in what looks like to be a pick swap. So not much value given up for Cam Akers. I guess the Rams pretty much just kind of gave up hope on him. But I'd like to get your thoughts here, man, on the Cam Akers trade. Do you think that the Rams didn't give up enough for him, or do you think that he's kind of, washed and, he's just kind of a mediocre running back?
So I kind of look at it at this. I always look at trades from the perspective of both teams. I think the Vikings, without Dalvin Cook, are really hurting on their ground game, and I think yeah, you had Kareem Hunt available at the time to have come in and help that run game in Minnesota. That said, I don't think Cam Akers is as bad as at least as the Rams think he might be. I think he'll help Minnesota. I don't think that's gonna instantly make them a division favorite in this trade. And then from the Rams' perspective, they didn't get much back in return, but at the same time, Cam Akers' value isn't very high, and I mean, at the most, I think, running backs have a very low value in this league already. And when you're not, a top level running back, you're probably not going to get more than what LA got for them or for him. So it's just, I think it's a good win for both teams. If I'm being completely honest, obviously, this helps the run game of Minnesota, and LA got draft capital, which they're in need of. Especially, after Matthew Stafford and his, F them picks mantra that he had for a while. They need picks, and, the Rams mortgaged their future. They got their Super Bowl ring out of it, but yeah, I think this benefits both teams in the long run.
Yeah, I think so too. And a lot of the big news actually was about whether, Alexander Madison's going to be, should he be cut off of fantasy teams here? I actually have him on my fantasy team, so might have to look at a replacement there. I do think, though, him and Akers will probably split. Maybe Akers will take a little bit more of the workload, maybe like a 70-30 split on the carries there. But yeah, I'm just really interested to see, because Cam Akers, man, I feel like he either will go off in some games or other games he'll have a whole a lot of nothing. So I'm curious to see how he's going to incorporate in this Minnesota offense. But like you said, man, running backs don't really have much value, especially because Cam Akers is maybe average at best running back in the
Right,
league.
right.
He's like an average at, but yeah, he's not that valuable running back. He's very easily replaceable. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Is I don't think it's gonna be like a 70-30 I think it's gonna be closer to like a 60-40 on the split workload between these two backs in Minnesota. But it's just I think this really does end up helping Minnesota in the long run. They needed help in the run game, and now they have it. And like you said, Akers is he's an average running back, and I mean, there's not much more to that than that. I mean, I think it's a win for both teams. Like I said.
Mm-hmm.
So breaking away from the NFL now, we're just gonna run through just the top 25 matchups for college football, because outside of the top 25, no one really cares. Let's be honest here. We will cover Michigan State though, because it is a local team for us. So anyways, Michigan will play Rutgers. Again, Michigan playing a nobody school. Figures. Michigan's favored by 24. They still haven't yet covered against even their really bad opponents. but I think actually Michigan might be able to cover here. I know Rutgers is 3-0, Michigan's 3-0 as well. Jim Harbaugh's back, so I think there will be a lot more. Uh, I think the play will be better from Michigan, and obviously better play calling on the offensive side of the ball because Harbaugh will be back. So yeah, I'm taking Michigan and the points in this one. I think they will finally be able to cover this season. Rutgers, you know, it's Rutgers. They're not very good. They're fraudulent 3-0, but they're just like Michigan. They played nobody's school, so it doesn't really matter. But I think J.J. McCarthy will also bounce back after a horrible game last week.
Yeah, I think so too, man. They got to finally cover a game here, and this is the one. This is a in conference rivalry here, and Rutgers has just always been trash. So, I mean, only 25 points. I mean, they can definitely do that against Rutgers.
Yeah, absolutely. Florida State will play Clemson. Florida State is favored by only 2 in this one. Um, Clemson, I have no faith in them at all. They don't have elite level talent like they did when they had Trevor Lawrence. And Florida State obviously looking really solid this year, and I they're still the favorite to win the ACC in my books, anyways. I know they had a very scary game against Boston College last week, but I think that was a game that Boston College had circled on their calendar. So I think that might be part of it. But yeah, I'm taking Florida State in this one. I don't think it'll be as close as a 2-point game, but I think Clemson will at least keep it within a score.
Yeah, I think so too. Even though Clemson lost to Duke, still crazy to think about. Even though I mean Duke was ranked this year, but Florida State is just the better team, and I think that they have something to prove here after that weak performance against Boston College last week, where Boston College almost had the upset. So Florida State, I think, is going to handle this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Oklahoma takes on Cincinnati. Cincinnati's not that powerhouse that they were, even just a couple years ago. That they're in the Big 12 now, and it's just they haven't been able to adjust to playing Big 12 football yet, and I think that's probably the biggest factor. OU's favored by 14 in this one. I think we both agree that OU's gonna handle this one no problem.
Yeah, OU, man, definitely is going to handle this one. Cincinnati. This isn't the Cincinnati team that had Sauce Gardner and that went to the college football playoffs. So yeah.
Yeah. Number 10 versus number 19, Oregon versus Colorado. Oregon's favored by 21 in this one.
Wow.
I don't think that is going to be that far of a spread between the two teams. Granted, Oregon, I believe, has already played at least one real opponent. Let me look at their schedule real quick. Yeah, they did. They did play that one game against Texas Tech, and it's Texas Tech. They're not, that great of a team, but it was a challenge, and so I think they're ready for it. Obviously, Colorado will be a fraudulent, ranked at the time TCU team who lost everything. I don't think that they ranked them after that because they had to, but they played a 2 overtime game against the FCS school last week, and just barely made out of there. I think Oregon blows them out, but I don't think it's going to be a 21-point blowout. I think maybe 14, 15 points by the end of it. I just have no faith in Colorado at all.
Yeah, I think Colorado's finally going to get humbled this week. Everyone's been on Colorado since their first win in week 1. I think Oregon's going to win. I don't think though it's going to be by more than 20. I'm with you. I think like maybe 2 touchdowns. Colorado, I think at some point it's going to make it entertaining. I think that it will kind of start out close, and then Oregon will start pulling away around like second, third quarter there.
Yeah, I think if you're Oregon, you have to come out of the gates punching Colorado in the mouth because everyone is talking about them. Everyone thinks Colorado's this great team. Surprise, they're not. They're frauds. But yeah, if you're Oregon, you want to come out and you want to punch Colorado right in the mouth, and just don't let up till the end of the fourth quarter, because you know all this hype around Colorado, it has got to be tiring for a lot of these teams on their schedule, and I think they all want to get a piece of Coach Prime, and his and his son, so yeah, I think Oregon handles business in this one. Another Pac-12 matchup: Utah taking on UCLA, 11 versus 22. Utah's favored by 6 in this one. UCLA, they have that freshman quarterback. God, what's his name? He's from the Detroit area. Um, Shit, what's his name?
Let's see.
Oh,
Uh,
Dante Moore.
yep.
He's local kid. He is looking really good. I'm not sure if Cam Rising's going to be back this week or not. Um, if he is, then I think Utah wins this one, no problem. But I still think Utah wins this one. I think they cover as well. But this is going to be a really, really good game to watch. I think it's going to be a really fun game. A lot of back and forth between the offenses. And so, yeah, this is going to be a really, really fun matchup this week to watch.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this will be a good matchup here. But like you said, man, I think that Utah will take care of business here. UCLA, I think, will be, it'll be a closer game, but Utah.
Absolutely. Number 13 taking on number 15, Alabama and Ole Miss. Bama's favored by 6.5. I'm taking Ole Miss in this one. I think Bama's done for, man. I really, really do. I think if you're Nick Saban, you're going to retire at the end of the season. They don't have any talent, especially at the quarterback position like they've had in years prior. They don't have any wide receiver talent either. This team is just empty, and I think really the only reason they were even ranked in the top 10 to start the season was just on brand recognition. I mean, they haven't been playing well. I mean, to be held to 3 by South Florida for 3.5 quarters, you got to do better than that, man. I mean, Bama's just terrible. I'm taking Ole Miss, and I think they cover as well.
Man, I really hope that this is the end for Alabama. It is a 13-15 matchup. I want to say Bama, but you know what? Fuck it, man. I'm gonna go with Ole Miss, man.
That's my fucking boy. That's my fucking boy. Fuck Bama.
I hope, especially because Texas finally is back and they beat.
Yes,
Bama.
sir.
Ole Miss, man. Let's keep this train rolling, man. Let's keep it on. Get Bama 2 losses. Keep it going, man.
Absolutely. I really, really hope Ole Miss pulls this one out. I know Kiffin's been wanting to beat Bama for the longest time. I think this is the year he finally does it. Number 18, Duke's taking on UConn. I believe Duke's on the road. Yeah, Duke is on the road at this one, but they're still a 21.5-point favorite.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, exactly. I think. UConn. Yeah, exactly. But both schools are basketball schools. That said, I think we both agree Duke's winning this one, no problem, and I'm pretty sure they cover as well. This UConn defense is just like straight dog ass, man. I mean, they can't do anything. So we'll just move quickly on to these next few games because they're all pretty bad games. You got Miami taking on Temple, favored by 23.5. That's a road game for Miami too. They're number 20. I think they handle business easily. Temple is, they're not good, and I think Miami, while I don't think they're in their elite at the elite level like UNC or Florida State in the ACC, I think Miami might be a dark horse candidate for that conference, but yeah, I think they handle business, no problem here, and you obviously agree with that. So Tennessee, after a embarrassing loss to Florida of all teams last week, they take on UTSA. They're number 23 in the nation right now. Tennessee, I mean, they just the offense isn't good. Um, what's his name is the quarterback? He used to play for Michigan. Um, he lost the quarterback battle to Cade McNamara. Joe Milton. He has a cannon for an arm, just no accuracy at all. It's like firing a musket. It's just like a ton of power, no accuracy at all, and yeah, because like I remember watching a game, the game where Hooker went down last year. He launched a ball like 50 yards down the field, no problem, and it was right down the sideline. So I guess you could kind of give some accuracy to that. But I mean, dude's got an arm on him. I think Tennessee obviously favored by the 21 points here. UTSA, horrible team. Tennessee handles business, no problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no problem there, man.
No problem for LSU this week either. They're taking on Arkansas, favored by 17 and a half. Obviously, it's a conference game, but yeah, I think again Arkansas just not that good. LSU obviously they had a bad loss to Florida State, but they've bounced back in the past 2 weeks with 2 wins. Uh, and so yeah, I think LSU handles business. I don't know about the 17 and a half. I think Arkansas will at least cover that. But yeah, I think LSU obviously wins this one.
Yeah, another typical college blowout game here. Um, I definitely feel like LSU is going to take care of business here.
Absolutely. The two unwanted teams of the Pac-12 face each other. Number 14, Oregon State, at number 21, Washington State. Obviously, both teams 3-0 into this one. Nobody in this, no conference wants either of these two schools for some reason. Probably because uh, they are what they are. I think Oregon State takes this one. They are favored only by 3. That said, Washington State has been looking pretty solid. They obviously had the win over ranked Wisconsin team in week 2, and they've been obviously handling these piss poor Colorado schools in their non-conference play as well, with Colorado State and North Colorado. This is going to be a very interesting one to watch. Um, like I said, I think Oregon State wins this one. And I think obviously Oregon State is, probably the biggest threat to win the Pac-12 over Utah. So
Mm-hmm.
I think Oregon State wins this one. I think it will be a close game like Vegas predicts, and it is just going to be a very fun game to watch.
Yeah, of all the college games, man, this is finally something that might be close. I think the Oregon State, I will take them as well over Washington State. Um, just like Oregon State, a little bit better as a team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they do have the better team. That said, moving on, Florida taking on Charlotte. Florida finally ranked for the first time in a very long time, but they're playing a very bad Charlotte team. They're favored by 28. I think we in America agree Florida wins this one, no problem. Although I think it would be funny just for the memes that Charlotte wins it, but I highly doubt it.
Yeah, I mean, another 20-point favor here. Going to be no problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Georgia's playing UAB. This is a joke, man. This
Bro,
is
why?
42 and a half point favorite in this one. All right, look, Georgia couldn't even cover against Ball State, so I don't think Georgia covers in this one. Mostly because I just think they just get bored. But
Yeah, they don't
it,
care.
it in my mind, I think Georgia should be up like 85-2 or 3 at at the half. I mean, it's just UAB so bad. This is a joke of a game. But yeah, Georgia obviously handles business. I would love it. I would love it to see Georgia fall, mostly just to see Michigan at number 1. But it's not gonna happen as much as I
Not
would
this
love it
week.
to. Not
No.
this week, no. Anyways, um, Texas taking on Baylor, favored by 14.5. It's a road game for Texas. That said, Texas number 3 in the country, and what have we been saying in
Texas,
every episode? Texas
Texas
is
is
back.
back.
I'm telling you, man. Texas is back, and they're ready for the SEC. We covered that in episode 3 with Ian, but yeah, I think Texas handles business, no problem. 14.5 point favorites. Make it 20, and I still think they cover. I mean, Baylor is not good, man. They're just
Baylor lost to Texas State, bro.
yeah, exactly my point. Um, Ohio State on the road at Notre Dame. They're favored by 3. This right here
Ooh.
is kind of a trap game, and I think so. So Notre Dame plays a style of football very close to Michigan. They like to run the ball a ton. So I think if Notre Dame goes out there and punches Ohio State in the mouth and plays the way that they do, just very similarly to how Michigan does, I think that kind of is telling that Michigan should be a pretty heavy favorite in that game later on this year. That said, OSU is favored by 3. I mean, I think Notre Dame wins this one, man. I really do. They've looked really, really good so far in 4 games in 3 weeks. Make that make sense still. But yeah, man, I think Notre Dame wins this one no problem. I mean, it's just especially if they if Ohio State still can't stop the run like they haven't been able to for the past 2 years against Michigan. I mean, this is going to be a very tough game, and Ryan Day's defense has not been able to do much this year or in the past few years, really, against the run. And this offense, I mean, Kyle McCord, not looking good.
Yeah, man. I This is another one, kind of like the Alabama situation, where Ohio State probably the better team, but man, I really want to see Notre Dame beat them, and that would be such a satisfying victory, man. Um, Give me Notre Dame, man. I think that, like you said, if they can get the running game going, Ohio State has struggled against the run. Um, and it's going to be such relief off Michigan too later in the year if Ohio State's not undefeated, and they're both not going to be undefeated. Um, so yeah, man. Give me Notre Dame.
Absolutely. Big Ten football, Iowa, number 24. Oh, by the way, speaking of, back to that last game real quick. Ohio State's ranked number 6, Notre Dame ranked number 9, 69. Nice. Anyways, anyways, so Iowa and Penn State, I think 2 of the best defenses in the country playing each other. Uh, so that's going to be a very fun matchup to watch for me, especially because I love tough, gritty defensive games. Penn State's favored by 15 in this one. Iowa's offense can't, move the ball at all. Obviously, we know their situation with their offensive coordinator. You don't average 25 points a game this year, you're fired. So that said, they purposely tried to run the score up against Western Michigan last week, but I don't think they score more than 25 points this week. I mean, Penn State is really good. They have a really solid defense. I think Penn State's offense is obviously a ton better than Iowa's, and I think they handle business in this one. I don't know if they win it by 15. I think Iowa will cover that, but it's going to be a very low-scoring game, despite Penn State's uh, their incredible offense so far this season.
Yeah, man. I think Penn State is just going to obliterate Iowa. Iowa has no offense. They're not going to be able to even, handle, covering 15 point spread here. They have struggled to get 15 points themselves, man. Penn State will definitely take care of business.
Yeah, my thing is that like while Penn State's offense is really good, Iowa's defense might be the best in the country. Um,
Sure.
so that's why I think Iowa will cover, but they won't score many points themselves. So I think we'll see like a final score of like 24 to 13 or something like that. Both these defenses are really good, but Iowa's offense also sucks ass. So yeah. So ACC football, number 17 North Carolina at on the road at Pitt. They're favored by 7.5. I think North Carolina handles this one no problem. Uh, Drake May is a really really good quarterback. And Pitt just don't have it in them. They're 1-2 right now. Um, but there's this thing in betting called the triple D. It's the desperate divisional dog. Pitt might be that this week, especially at home. So I think it'll be. I think North Carolina will cover this, but I think just barely. I think maybe it'll be like an 8 point game at the end.
Yeah, I think so as well, man. Um, North Carolina is going to handle this no problem, man. I think they'll win by more than 7.5 too.
Yeah. USC's taking on Arizona State. Uh, their last ever game in the for both of these schools in the Pac-12, as the Pac-12 will cease to exist. USC favored by 34.5.
Yeah.
I think we all agree Arizona State's garbage. They're 1-2. Uh, Going to the Big 12, they're still gonna struggle because no one cares about Sun Devil football. So USC, I think, handles business on this one. I don't think they cover though. 34.5 is a lot in divisional play or conference play, I should say.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think USC wins this one. I don't think they cover.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, that is a tough line to cover. 35. I mean, that's a lot to win by. So, um, yeah, I'm gonna go USC, but to not cover.
Yeah, and then last top 25 matchup, Washington's taking on Cal. Washington favored by 20.5 in this one. Um, I think Washington handles business. Washington, I mean, if they play like they did last week against MSU, they handle business again. I mean, Penix just he could have hung 80 on MSU last week if he really wanted to. Um, and yeah, that's just about it. I think Washington wins and covers on this one.
Yeah, I think so too, man. Washington's just gonna go crazy. They have been scoring a ton of points, man. I think they'll handle business here.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we'll cover Michigan State real quick. They're taking on a 3-0 Maryland team. Maryland's actually favored by 7.5. They're coming into East Lansing. Um, Obviously, we know everything going on with Mel Tucker, and uh, who's the coach this week? Is it the same guy as last week?
I think so. I'm honestly not too sure, which is crazy because I usually follow, Michigan State, but I have no clue who the coach is going to be. Some assistant coach, I think.
Yeah, I think it's the defensive coordinator. That was the head coach last week. I think he's still, the coach this week as well. I think Maryland wins this one. I don't know if they cover though. I think they're again like most teams right now a fraudulent 3-0. That said, Michigan State is just it, there. There's so much going on with that school. The team sucks. They lost. They're losing their head coach now. It's just a mess. So I think Maryland does win this one on the road.
I do too, and that's sad because I want to see Michigan State win, but they just are not the same team that they have been. I mean, even last year they weren't that great, but 2 years ago they weren't. They were a ranked team. Maryland though, even though Maryland's not that great either, they're better than MSU right now.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But sticking with college football for a minute. So Gene Smith yesterday, he's the OSU athletic director, and a few other ads across the country. They came in, they stood in front of Congress yesterday to try and get some legislation, some rules, some guidance, something to make a level playing field in college football, because obviously there's some schools that are abusing the hell out of NIL to get recruits, while other schools are still trying to do the quote unquote correct thing, and some schools just don't have the money like others, like some like Texas for example, or Texas A&M for example. A couple years ago they had all these 5-star recruits. They had the number one recruiting class in the country by far, and it's just because they were signing kids all to these $1 million NIL deals. Um, I just I just want to kind of get your take for a second on what you think is what needs to happen in terms of NIL, uh, and where we are in college football with all this.
Yeah, so I was always a big person for NIL, man. The college football games, the video games, I was always like, man, they should be able to use their name, their likeness, and be able to get their money, man. Even like outside of football, the other college athletes, who've done well in NIL. I'm definitely for it, man. Um, I mean, I know there's just a whole bunch of different rules and regulations for it. But yeah, I'm pro NIL, man.
Now, I want these players to get paid. They deserve to get paid. They make money for the schools, so they should be able to get paid for doing that. They're basically employees now. I think the term student athlete has gone out the window now, especially with NIL. But here's the thing: the NCAA did not want NIL to be a thing, and
Mm-hmm.
as much as I disagree with that, NIL should have been a thing a very very long time ago. They didn't want it, so when the Supreme Court said yes, college players can get paid and they should get paid, the NCAA instantly went, okay, you guys have at it. Call us when everything's burning down, and we might fix it. They went in with the NCAA didn't want this at all. They just said screw it. You'll have no rules, no guidelines. Um, so I think what needs to happen is Congress. I think going in front of Congress is stupid to try and get rules.
Yeah.
Like this country has much worse things to worry about right now, instead of NIL rules for college football.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I think the NCAA needs to step up and set some sort of guidelines, because NIL's here to stay. I know that they don't want that, but NIL's here to stay. I just my question for you then would be is when and if and when do you think we're gonna get some rules, like what is like what are some rules that you would at least like to see implemented, and also when do you think we're gonna see any sort of rules for it?
Um, so I would say like for scene rules, hopefully within the next year or two. I'm not really sure how fast or slow this process is going to be, but honestly, I feel like you know just based on how much revenue the certain athlete can, I don't know how they would really calculate the amount of revenue that athlete is specifically bringing in, but just some sort of percentage of that. Of course, the top athletes getting paid more. Brand deals, sponsorships, being able to use their image and likeness, man. Hopefully, it comes sooner than later, man.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna see rules not for quite a while. I think the NCAA wants to see this all burn completely to the ground, and then burn the
Mm-hmm.
ashes as well, because
Yeah.
it's just I think we're gonna see it probably in the next 5 to 7 years. I don't think we're gonna see anything for the next few years though. That said, what I would like to see for one is these players actually signing contracts. I think things with like the transfer portal now has changed a lot with NIL as well. Schools are telling players, hey, well, you come here, you can make this much money. So I think what needs to happen for one is players when they go to high school, or when they come out of high school, when they go to a college, they sign a 1, 2, or 3 year contract. It's mutually binding, so you're stuck with your school forever, however long you sign your contract for.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go to the portal. just because you're not getting play time or whatever because you lost the starting job to someone else. You shouldn't just be moving school to school to school every single year because someone better than you stepped up. I think that's just utterly ridiculous to have. So I think you know, and part of it is also to help the coaches because they have to recruit every single year new recruits every single year, but they also have to basically recruit their own players that are already on their team to make sure, hey, what can I do to make you happy to stay here on the team? What can it's kind of ridiculous. So I think having some sort of contract where this player signed for 2 years and they can't transfer out. I think that will take a lot of stress off of coaches um, in the long run, so they can actually focus on getting new recruits instead of making sure that the players and instead of making sure that their players that are already there aren't going away. I think helping them move or not wasting that time making sure that their players are happy, they can actually use that on actually getting recruits straight out of high school. And I think something like that would help all these teams, and also just some rules on how much teams can actually spend on NIL deals, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that kind of wraps up everything I kind of wanted to discuss on that. I really hope we see something soon. So yeah, I know we got some Tigers news to cover, so I'll let you kind of take that.
Yeah, so I guess moving here into baseball, the Tigers, right at the end of the season here, hiring a new GM. So this guy, his name is Jeff Greenberg. He's a younger guy. He's, I think, 37. He was an assistant for the Cubs, but he was recently with the Blackhawks, so he's like a Chicago guy. Coming to Detroit here, I'm gonna be honest. I don't really know too much about him other than that. Never really heard his name much in the media talked about. He's not like a world famous guy, that everyone knows in the baseball world for being a general manager here. Um, but I mean, I'm kind of glad that we're hiring someone a little bit younger. I'm definitely more favorable to the younger guys than I am older when it comes to ownership and general management. Hopefully, he can bring something new to Detroit here. I've never been a fan of Al Avila. I thought he was absolutely awful. So we'll see where Jeff Greenberg can take the team here in the future. Continue signing free agents. Continue making big roster moves here. Be involved in some trades here. Just doing anything that he can to finally get some more talent on this roster. A lot of the guys who we have signed have either not panned out, like Baez, or we were going to trade anyways, like Lorenzen, and Rodriguez was rumored in trades last year as well. So we'll see, man. We need to definitely get the talent going back here to Detroit, man. Make Detroit somewhat of a premium destination spot for free agents. I'm not sure when that's going to be, but hopefully this new general manager can make something happen, man.
Yeah, so I did a little bit of research on this Jeff Greenberg as soon as I saw the announcement this morning. So he's an Ivy League grad. He went to Columbia. He's been the assistant GM for both the Cubs and the Blackhawks recently. He was the assistant GM for the last 2 years for the Blackhawks, and then before that he was on a bunch of different roles with the Cubs. So he has a pretty good understanding of the GM role, which I like, but it all means nothing until he starts making trades, starts signing guys, starts drafting players. That said, I almost wonder if Scott Harris hired him just because of the whole situation that the Tigers had, blowing the deal with Eduardo Rodriguez on the trade deadline day back in August. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I almost wonder if that has something to do with it. Because here's my thing is I don't really care um, if we if we're signing some solid players, but my thing is that what I want to see is Chris Ilitch actually spend money. Look, we have a lot of contracts coming off the books this year. Obviously, Miguel Cabrera, and we're gonna do a decent chunk of an episode just on Miguel coming up here. I believe actually next week. Uh, we're doing that the last week of the MLB season, so we'll talk about that then. Um, but I think it doesn't really matter unless Chris Ilitch actually signs off on these deals to actually sign players. That said, I don't really care if Jeff Greenberg signs anyone big. I want him to start just trading for prospects because that's desperately what the Tigers need is some prospects. But we'll just have to wait and see what he does. Uh, but it's exciting for Detroit that we finally have a GM for the Tigers, especially after all these years of Al Avila being the biggest numbnuts in all of sports. Like the dude is probably the worst GM I've ever seen in any sport. Like I can't name a worse one in my honest opinion. I cannot name a worse GM than him. But that said, I'm excited for it, but I have to wait and see anything from him before I really put any judgments on him. But it's good to see that Scott Harris was smart enough to actually sign a GM.
Yeah, yeah, man.
So, lastly, training camp started today for the NHL. We got preseason starting on Saturday. A few games there. Not much interest in them though because it's preseason, so I don't really care about preseason hockey. But one thing that the NHL is trying out this year, with a few teams, is these split squad games. So, so a lot of these teams are gonna have two games being played at the same time against the same opponent. So there'll be like, for example, the Blues and Coyotes are playing on Saturday. There's gonna be two games, one in Arizona and one in St. Louis, and it's just basically two teams playing at the same time, which I think is something unique that the NHL's trying out. And we'll see how that works. Not every team's doing that this year. I know Detroit's not, but yeah, it's very interesting. I think that it helps. I think it's something that the NHL should look at long term because there's so many different players that play in the preseason and only getting one or two games out of the most out at the most of it because the last two or three games are usually your starters, and you get 8 preseason games, and your locked in roster guys are gonna be playing at some point just to get themselves ready for the regular season. So I think having these split team games long term will be interesting. I kind of just want to get your thought on that real quick.
Yeah, man. I think it's gonna be interesting seeing these split games, like you were saying, man, and a whole bunch of other stuff going on for the preseason as well. I don't really lean strongly either one way or the other. We'll just kind of have to see how it kind of goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's at least interesting. It's something worth trying because, again, it gets a lot of these players more time playing at the NHL level.
Mm-hmm.
It gets them more reps, which in the NHL is something that players really need to have. So I think it's interesting to see. Speaking of camp, though, Cale Makar in Colorado is going to miss the start of camp. He should be back next week. I think he's still recovering from a injury late in the season last year in the playoffs. Also in Colorado, Wagner's going to be out. He's got a ruptured Achilles, so he's going to be out for quite a few months. Uh, so I saw something today that there's actually a few teams interested in signing Patrick Kane. He's still injured. He needs about like a month more to recover. But what's interesting is that there's only one of these teams actually confirmed interested in signing him, and that's Buffalo. I think the Sabres could use a veteran presence in on their team, and obviously Patrick Kane is a really good player. I think we both agree on that one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so there's obviously a lot of different things going on there. I think not Ottawa, Buffalo could really benefit from having him on the team. But again, he's going to miss the first month of the season or so, still recovering from his injury.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it's at least nice to see that at least some team is interested in him. Uh,
Yeah.
I didn't see other teams that are like that have said anything about being at least interested, but Buffalo has come out and actually said they are interested in him. So that's kind of interesting to see. And then, speaking of Ottawa, though, it officially happened today, about 5 or 6 hours ago now. Um, uh, Michael Andlauer is officially the new owner of the Ottawa Senators. This is obviously huge for that team, for that franchise. Having an owner that actually cares for one is something that I think Ottawa's desperately needed for the longest time. Uh, so it's nice to finally see that. I don't care about Canadian teams. Quite frankly, keep the cup in the USA, all that fun stuff. But it's nice to see at least finally, the last, Canadian team to finally have an owner that cares. Because
Mm-hmm.
because all these other Canadian owners right now of these teams really care about their teams, and Ottawa just for the longest time, their previous owner just didn't care that much. So having Andlauer and his group come in and buy the team is huge. It's huge for that. I, I'm really uh, I'm really happy to have seen this happen. And yeah, it's a good thing for Ottawa, and yeah, that's just about it. Um, so yeah, that kind of wraps things up. Another long episode today, but obviously tons to talk about, and there's still tons to talk about every single week. Uh, Mike and I will be back obviously on Tuesday next week and Thursday with two new episodes. Lots to talk about. Obviously, we're going to review on Tuesday everything that happens this weekend, and Thursday we'll do our previews like we always do. And yeah, that's just about it. Mike, you want to take us out?
Yeah, so come back for the next episode here. Like Andrew mentioned, we will be talking about all the NFL Week 3 news here, and as well as the previews. We'll probably try and throw some blitz or hot takes as well in there. And yeah, I hope you guys can come back again next week for the next episode.
Rate, review, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and we will see you guys next week on Tuesday. Have a good night.